Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to today's lecture. So today we are going to talk about audit of PSU. Okay. Uh, Again, before I deep dive, we jump into the topic, we understand from where it is coming, what are the provisions, what is the requirement, and why we are required to see this particular area. Okay. Along with that, I just want to emphasize, please ask questions. If you have any questions at any point in time, please ask freely. That will be very helpful for you guys to understand the topic. Okay, so let's go to the topic. Now, audit of PSU, like public sector undertakings. I want to understand from you guys, when you hear the word PSU, public sector undertaking, what do you think? Where is the requirement for the audit of this particular these particular entities? Where it is enumerated? So where do you think the audit requirements are there for PSUs? Okay, good, Kaushiki. So where do you think, guys, the audit requirement for a PSU comes from? Okay, good, Boni. Okay, see, guys, correct. Your answers are correct, but not complete. Now, the reason why not complete is the requirement for the PSU to get his accounts audited depends upon the type of PSU. So if we want to talk about the audit of PSU, first we need to understand the categories of PSU for that. So the categories of PSUs, if I talk about, so basically one is the departmentally managed undertakings, basically. So which are the managed by the department. When I say department, these are department of different ministries. Okay, like Department of Revenue, Department of other XYZ departments. So departmentally managed undertakings. And they are the part of governmental activities. Okay, they are part of mental activities, like your railways, you can say postal services. Okay, uh, again, different other entities. It may be electricity. Let's say, for example, Airport Authority of India, a different department, different entities set up. Okay. Second is a category of corporation set up under specific acts. Corporations set up under specific acts, which includes, let's say, LIC, any other, entity which is, under specific act. So those entities will form part of, this particular hand. And the third is a corporation set up under Companies Act. Companies Act 2013, okay, and they qualify definition of government company. Okay, so if any company which is set up under Companies Act and they qualify the definition of government company, then they are governed by the Companies Act. So these are the three type of PSUs. Now, when I talk about three type of PSUs, as I said, different type of PSUs requirement generate from different particular what you can say act or law or legal provision. When I talk about departmentally managed PSUs, okay, where is their requirement? They are not part of your Companies Act. So where you can think their requirement will be? What do you think their requirement, from where their requirement will come? Departmentally managed undertaking, the first one. Where is their audit requirement? What do you think? Where is their audit requirement? Absolutely correct, Kaushiki. That is, Boni, that is for the second one. The respective acts will cover the requirement for the second one. What will be the, from where the requirement for the first one is coming? Okay, so the requirement for the first, okay, requirement uh, for the first type of entities is coming, okay, is coming from your direct Indian Constitution. So Indian Constitution contains requirement, you can say, for this kind audit of these kind of entities. Okay, I'll tell you where and how. So if you read Article 148, Article 148 of the Indian Constitution, okay, it talks about, Article 148 talks about Controller and Audit General of India, C&AG. Okay, so their requirements come from Article 148 to, there are multiple articles, 148, 149, 150, 151. So 150 till 151, there are articles which talks about C&AG, its duties and its power. So 148 talks about, the Controller and Audit General of India, which says that there shall be a Controller and Audit General of India who shall be appointed by the President. Okay. Second, it says that every person appointed, like as in Controller and Audit General of India, his duties will be like as prescribed, plus his duty will be to perform audits of union and state, or any such department of such particular union and state. Okay, then again 150 talks about my forms and accounts of union and states. So it says that the accounts of union and state shall be kept in such form as President on the advice of C&AG prescribes. And 151 talks about the reports of C&AG relating to the accounts of the union and state shall be submitted to the President, who shall lead them into the Parliament, in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both. Okay, so these are certain provisions. 148, the C&AG, 149 duties of C&AG, 150 forms of account for the state and union, and 151 is the audit report. Okay, now this was the the basic fundamental provision for the C&AG and their audit. Then comes to the another act, which is we call it DPC Act, or the Comptroller and Audit General Duties, Powers and Conditions Service Act. Okay. I'll show you. So this is the DPT Act, DPC Act, the Comptroller and Audit General Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act, 1971, or DPC Act, basically. So DPC Act provides the second requirement, further requirement, or elaborates the requirement of Article 148 to 151. So DPC Act, okay. Basically, if you see Section 13, of DPC Act, it talks about the duties of C&AG. Okay. So the duty of C&AG is to audit all the expenditure from Consolidated Fund of India and of each state, of each union territory having legislative assembly. Okay. To ascertain whether the money shown in the accounts, have been discharged legally and all that stuff. Second, to audit all the transactions of the union and state relating to the contingency fund. Third, to audit all trading, manufacturing, profit and loss, balance sheet, and other subsidiary accounts kept by the Department of the Union and State in case of, to report the expenditure and transactions so audited by him. So Section 13 kinds of, provides the duty of C&AG. Duty of C&AG to audit union and state plus departments. Okay. Then there are Section 15 which talks about the functions of C&AG in case of grants or loan given to other bodies and authorities. Then it comes to the Section 18, which talks about the power of C&AG with respect to the audits of account. Okay, with respect to audits of account, the power talks about that C&AG have authority, like in companies that the auditor has the authority to inspect the books of accounts. Same way, C&AG has an authority to inspect, okay, any office of the accounts under the control of union, state, treasury, or person of the responsible for such office for the keeping of initial or subsidiary accounts. Okay, and they are required to submit him. Then C&AG has a power to have an authority to require that any accounts, papers, or other documents, okay, shall be placed before him for the inspection. To perform inspection. Then third, C&AG has an authority to put such question or make such observation as he may consider necessary for the purpose of his audit. Okay, so he can question, okay, and ask information. Now then comes the Section 19. a specific section in the DPC Act, that is audit of government companies and corporations. Okay, this section talks about that the duties of C&AG in relation to the audit of accounts of government companies shall be exercised according to the provision of Companies Act. Okay, so they say that okay, C&AG's duty shall be according to the Companies Act, and Companies Act has appropriate provision also. Okay, then it says that the duties and powers of C&AG in relation to the audit of the account of corporation established any under other law, okay, shall be performed by him according to the provisions of that particular law. So for the first for this one, it says that C&AG to perform audit as per Companies Act. Here it says that C&AG to perform audit as per respective law. Okay, and for the third one, we are already seeing, but the governor of state, you know, like in case of article 148, 151, or the rest of the sections like 13, 18, or there are other also sections like 14, 15, they talk about the third requirement, like section 16 of DPC Act, audit of receipts of union and state, section 17, audit of accounts of stores and stock. Okay, so there are other provisions of the DPC Act which govern the third area or the first area over here. Okay, now that is section 19. Sorry, section 19, audit of government companies. So then it comes section 20, audit of accounts of certain authorities and bodies. Okay, then in that case, like it is given in section 20 that okay, otherwise for the entities which are already covered in section 19, means entities other than section 19 that we discussed now, where audit and accounts have not been entrusted to the C&AG, okay, made by any under law or made by any other provision. Okay, so then president or governor can request, okay, to the C&AG for the audit of such entity, okay, which has been left out. So and C&AG can perform. So it's kind of a residuary section, but again, there is a power under section 20 to audit certain authorities and bodies. So these are the various categories or various sections that I'm discussing about, from where the requirement of the audit of the PSU form. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? So section 19 applies to the first category, and like for the second and third category, it provides what to look to, where to look basically. And there are various sections which apply to the 1 and 2 category 1, like article, section 13, 18, 19. So depends upon the type of department and type of audit. Section 19 talks about that for these second category, okay, audit is required to be performed as per the respective law. Let me write it down. And as per 19(1), it says that okay, C&AG to perform audit of companies registered under Companies Act as per the Companies Act provision. Clear till this? I'll come to the qualification and all those stuff. I'll come that on that particular area. But clear till here? Any doubt from where the provisions are coming? What is the base, like from where we are required to audit, or PSUs? Clear till now? Okay, good. Now, this was basically the provisions relating to the audit of C&AG. Now, I will be talking about more onto okay. Now, next thing that I want to discuss here is you can say some more detail about the C&AG. Okay, what are the qualifications, term, tenure, and you can say like duration in the office. So for the C&AG, as I told you about the DPC Act. So DPC Act basically governs the requirement for the C&AG, and they have like if you see the name, the Comptroller and Audit General duties, powers, and conditions of service. So it provides the condition of service also. Okay, so it says that the DPC Act provides that the term of office, like like till the age of 65 before the expire or expiry of the said term, that is the 6 years. Okay, so a C&AG shall hold the office when he attains the age of 65 or 6 years before the expiry of term of 6 years, then he shall vacate the office. Okay, I'll write it down here. And that is covered, the particular requirement that I'm talking about is covered under section 4. Term of office is either 6 years or 65 years age for C&AG. Okay, now again, whichever is earlier. So if before he completes its term of 6 years, if he becomes, if he attains the age of 65 years, then he needs to vacate the office. So that's an age limit. Okay. Then again, so as I said, Comptroller and Audit General, how he is appointed basically. Okay, the appointment of Comptroller and Audit General is by the President. So Article 148 says that there shall be a C&AG who shall be appointed by the President. Okay, under his hand and seal, and only to be removed from office and on grounds as a judge of the Supreme Court may deem. appropriate. So he can only be appointed by president, and he can only be removed based on certain grounds where the judge of the on ground as a judge of the Supreme Court, and the manner that they define. Okay. So it's on the par levels. So the provisions and the removal for the judge of the Supreme Court is applicable. Same is applicable for C&AG. Okay. Then again, so the salary condition of service, as I told you about, it's defined under the specific act, DPC Act. Okay. Again, then there are other provisions which talks about leave, pension, and all those stuff, the salary stuff. I'll just tell you that is contained and part of the DPC Act. Okay. Then what actually the thing is that the DPC Act provides the background about C&AG, his you can say delegation of power, power to make rules. So it's a over and above the constitution, it's a base law that provides the directions, and you can say more on to elaborate how C&AG can do the thing. Because in constitution there are only 4 articles: 148, 149, 150, and 151. Not much details are there, but there it is said that as may be prescribed by the government from time to time, so they have formed DPCA. Okay. So let's say, for example, we have a section 21, delegation of power of C&AG. So C&AG can delegate its power to the respective departments, based on the requirement. Then there is a power to dispense with the detailed audit. Okay. So there are other sections also which helps C&AG with respect to these particular areas. Okay. Any doubt with respect to this, with respect to C&AG? Any doubt? Any doubt till now? So there are good case laws also, on with respect to the powers to conduct the audit of C&AG. Okay, whether it is within the power of the C&AG to conduct the audit or whether it's not. So there are various things, in various what you can say sections and various case laws. You can go and check. I'll name some, or I'll include some. Okay, so that provides the guidance on that. So there is one question. Okay, what is section 15 about? Section 15. Okay. So basically, see, now when I talk about section 15 of this particular act, okay, that talks about the functions of C&AG in cases of grants or loans given to other authorities or bodies. Okay, it's specific to loans and grants which are given from the Consolidated Fund of India to any state, union territory, or any authority or body. So there they have the power to to check whether after giving after giving the grants, they have been appropriately used or not. C&AG the right to access and everything. So that's the section 15. Kaushiki, your question is, I think, not coming. Is the something like that? yes, you can say that, ICI is set up under specific act, so it will be a category 2-1. Yeah. Any other question, guys? Okay. So that was something, with respect to the audits. Now, again, having said that, there are other bodies, you can say, or committees which look after for the audit, which looks after for the audit. So these are part and parcel of our legislation, okay, and they are formed under a specific, you can say, not act, but they have a specific authority. They are formed under specific provisions which are laid under various laws. Okay, so I'll like to highlight first is your public's account committee. Okay, first one is your public's account committee. Now these committees, okay, are parliamentary committee. They are formed under the rules and regulations which are there for the parliament. Okay, uh, the how the house works, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and everything. So they are part of that particular, like that particular rules. Okay. Now, when I talk about this particular committee, okay, Public Accounts Committee. So Public Accounts Committee, you can say it's quite old. I think last year itself, in 2021, they completed their 100 years. Okay. So first is Public Accounts Committee. I'll explain how they are different from C&AG and what are their roles. Okay. So Public Accounts Committee is formed based on the like the relevant provisions which are there in the rules of procedure to conduct business in Lok Sabha. And basically, if I talk about there are various rules in that. One of is 309, and which lays down some of the basic provision for the Public Account Committee. Okay. So Public Account Committee is basically, formed under the rules of Parliament. Okay. Now, what is the role of this Public Account Committee? Now, Public Accounts Committee has multiple roles. I'll elaborate some of them, okay, and highlight some of the roles that they follow. And very, very critical to understand, because this committee that I'm talking about is the one of the oldest committees. So it was first formed in 1921, before independence. So before independence, this is going on. And recently, they, as I told you, they completed their 100 years. So they are formed under rules 308 and 309, okay, of rules of procedure, rules of procedure and conduct of business, in Lok Sabha. Okay. Now, as I told you, the functioning is basically governed by the 308, and there are some specific things which are covered in the 309. Now, as per the provisions of the 308 and 309, what is the duty of this particular committee? So as per the provisions, the scope of examination of PSE, we call it a PSE. So the scope of examination of PSE includes the appropriation of finances of the government of India. Okay. Second, the reports of the C&AG on the expenditure of various ministries, departments, revenue receipts, and annual accounts, audit reports relating to the autonomous, semi-autonomous body, okay, which are audited by C&AG and laid in the house. So you can say these will be the functions, or you can say scope of PSE. The scope of PSE is examination of appropriates accounts, okay. Basically, their target is to see the excess expenditure in respect to the grants and charge and appropriations, and if there has been any excess amount has been spent than what it was supposed to be granted to them. Second, detailed examination of the reports of C&AG. Okay. So these are, you can say, some of the function, one of the function of a scope of C&AG. Okay. Then if I talk about the functions, what they need to do, okay, what they need to do based on that, okay, this is a scope. Okay, what they need to check is, first they need to check the money recorded at the spends against the particular grant. Okay, so once a department records the money, that the money has been spent, money spent recorded, okay, against a particular grant, that should not be more than that amount granted. Second, expenditure brought to account, okay, shall be of such nature that is required. So nature of expense, you can say they need to check. Third, grants should be, for the purposes for, it should be spent for the purposes which are set out. So specific use of grants. Then they are required to see the cases of losses, like, there has been loss in the department or something, over expenditure, financial irregularities, or you can say you know excess expenditure. They're required to see that also. Okay, then they are required to see the reports of the C&AG. Okay, so their role is also to see the reports of the C&AG. Okay, and to examine whether the reports of the C&AG that are there, okay, like whether they have been, like whatever points are covered in the C&AG report, whether the government has appropriately replied in front of that or not. Okay, so their role is also to to ask government to reply in for those particular points which are covered in the C&AG report. So what happens is, once a C&AG report is laid down in the parliament, it is directed to the PSC, Public Account Committee. Public Accounts Committee, after detailed examination of the appropriate accounts or the audit reports, the committee presents its report to the Lok Sabha, a copy of which is also laid down in the Rajya Sabha. Now what happens is, then committee ask the ministries, department concerned to intimate the committee about the qualification which are contained in the C&AG report. Okay, and usually they ask the department or ministry to take the corrective actions or to intimate the proposed corrective actions to them within 4 to 6 months of the day of the laying of the reports in the house. So that's like they are they are kind of an enforcer of the C&AG report, you can say. Okay, so they are kind of an enforcer for the C&AG report. So that's something you can say the role, or you can say functions of the PSC. Okay. So the last one is the consider the reports of C&AG and ask respective ministries or departments to provide corrective actions. Okay, and they provide that in a form of a report that has been laid down in the parliament. Okay. So that is something you can say the function of the PSC. Now PSC also examines cases involving losses, as I told you, financial irregularities. When any case of a proved negligence that is there in front of the department or in front of the public or in front of the house, PSC takes that particular case for the study. They check it, what is the scenario, and then they issue a particular report. Then the ministry or the department concerned are required to provide them the action or the disciplinary action that they need to take in the current situation. Okay, basically PSC is not concerned with the question of the policy in broader sense. It's more on to the with respect to the use of the grants, funds, or use of the expenditure that has been carried out. So they do not go into the policy, they go more onto the expenditure side. Clear? Any doubt? I'll come to your question in a while, Boni. Definition of PSU, I'll come to that. That's the next part. So as I told you, these particular, you can say committee, this particular committee is Rule 308 of 2009 of Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in Lok Sabha. Kind of, you can say, yeah, mediator between government and C&AG. Now, when I talk about the composition of PSC, okay, the composition is PSC consists of 22 members. And out of them, 15 should be elected by Lok Sabha every year. 15 should be selected every year by Lok Sabha. Okay. based on the principle of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Okay, and 7 members of Rajya Sabha, not more than 7 members of Rajya Sabha elected by that house in manner like they require. So 7 from Rajya Sabha as the manner they have for their house, particular house. Okay. Then so as of today, if you see the term of the office of the member of the committee does not exceed 1 year. Okay, so the term does not exceed 1 year. Term of member not more than 1 year. And second, as of just for your information, any minister cannot be a member of this. So these particular members over here should not be the ministers, current ministers. Okay, also just for your information, the chairman of the committee is appointed by the speaker. Okay, so like a member from the opposition in the Lok Sabha like is appointed as in chairman of the committee by the speaker. So that's one of the practice that is still there with respect to this particular committee. So I think the current one is the 17th one as of now, the Lok Sabha and the PAC. So that is something about PAC. I just wanted to discuss, provide you the guidance on. Then the next one is your estimates committee. Okay. Now, same as we have PAC, there is an estimate committee. Again, that is also part of estimate committee is also part of your financial committees, which are which are there under the Lok Sabha. Okay. So estimate committee is again a parliamentary committee consisting of 30 members. Each member is elected every time. Every year means. So the members are elected every year, like their term is once a year. Now their functions, I'll provide the functions of this particular committee. The functions include to report what economic improvement in an organization, efficiency or administration reform, consistency with the policy and underlying estimates may be affected. So their role is to to provide these suggestions sort of. Okay, now when I talk about suggestion, which kind of suggestions are report what economies and improvements are required, report economies improvement required, you can say. Okay, consistent with the policy, okay, so that the estimates that are affected can be appropriately managed. Okay, suggest alternate policies to bring the efficiency, suggest alternate policies to bring efficiency and economy in administration. Okay. Then the third one is to examine whether the money is well laid out within the limits of the policy. Okay. The money is well laid out within the limits of policy. Okay. Then to suggest the form in which the estimate shall be presented to the Parliament. In which the estimate should be presented to Parliament. Okay. So basically, it talks about the estimates that the government make. Okay. So it's more on the estimate rather than the you can say the actual expenditure. That's why their name is estimates committee. Okay. So that's more onto the estimate pertaining to a particular department, central government, statutory authorities. Okay. So that the committee actually, examines whether the estimates are correct or not, whether the estimates are within the limits or not, whether, any improvement is required to, make estimate more appropriate, to provide some alternate policies or suggestions. That is the role of this particular committee. Okay. Now, the third committee that I want to refer to is public undertaking, committee on public undertaking. Again, same. This is the committee formed under the rules and procedures of the Lok Sabha. Okay, so that is part of that. That is formed under that only. Now, 22 members appointed, and like proportional representation, 7 from Rajya Sabha, rest 15 from Lok Sabha. Again, 1 year term, most on the same lines. It's there. Okay, but where it is different. So the difference comes with respect to the working. So this particular committee has a function to examine the reports. Okay, this committee to examine the reports and accounts of public undertaking. Of public undertakings. Second, they need to examine the report of C&AG. Okay, reports of C&AG of, again, public undertaking. I just write PU as of now. Examine the autonomy and efficiency of public undertaking. So examine the autonomy and efficiency means what they do is they check for the public undertaking whether they are working appropriately, whether they are autonomy means a situation where they work independently, okay, based on their law or special act, based on their rules and provisions, and they have enough power or enough authority to work in without any hurdles or without any you can say delays or something like that. So whether examining the autonomy and the efficiency of public undertaking. Plus whether they are managed in accordance with the sound principle, business principle. whether they are managed with sound business principles. Now, why this is required? Simple. If you bring the autonomy, if you delegate the power, you need to see whether they are, using that particular power and managing the business with in an appropriate way. So first, to delegate the powers to them so that they can they can take their own decision. But on the other hand side, examine whether the decisions taken by them are appropriate or not. Okay. Then such other functions which are vested to them. Vested, to them, basically, some other function that has been given by the Speaker of the House to them, and accordingly they need to perform it. So committee on public account committee on estimates, and committee on public undertaking. So these are the three committees of the Lok Sabha which also looks into the accounts of the PSUs. Now, why we discuss these three? Reason, because not only C&AG looks into the reports, but these are the committees also which looks and performs the required a sort of audit, you can say, but a review of the accounts of the public sector undertakings. So it's a multiple authorities or multiple bodies which are involved into the audit of PSU, you can say. Any doubt till now? Now, who forms these committee? Public Accounts Committee on Public Undertaking and Estimates Committee are formed by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Current member of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha can become the member of these committee, no one else. Whether they look for all the PSUs, answer is yes. Not only financial knowledge is required, there are various other things that are considered while electing a member. But again, it's a voting system, proportional voting system that is being done. Any doubt? Now, just tell you one simple example, let's say, which has been given to the C&AG, to Public Account Committee. So I'll show you a particular list. Which is available in public domain, which talks about the things which are given to the PAC. If you see, this is the name of subject. Sorry. So on the second column, you can see there is a name of the subject, basically, that is about what is the para of C&AG report, where communication has been made, whether it is considered by main committee or a subcommittee, or what are the remarks, basically the department. Okay, see, like the first one, it talks about the undue favor to the operators using dual multiple technology based on para 2.5 of C&AG report of number 20 of 2015, still open. Okay, performance audit of the construction of Indo-China border roads by the Border Roads Organization. Performance audit of agriculture crop insurance scheme. Performance audit of flood controlling forecasting based on C&AG report. Performance audit in catering service in Indian Railways, 2017 report. So these are the current subjects selected by the committee for further examinations. So they consider, they meet from time to time, they discuss all these subjects, and they perform tours, and they also go to respective departments and held discussions. Okay. Also, there are, as I told you, there uh, there are certain reports which are submitted by the government to the house, and they take the action. So there are some reports also there, and a lot of things is there. You can visit online on the Lok Sabha's website. You can get a ton of detail for particular this committee and each and every committee basically. Okay. Then the next area that I want to discuss is the objective and scope of public sector audits. Okay. Public enterprise audit. Now, when the audit is conducted by C&AG, how they conduct the audit? What are the provisions that are the part of that particular audit? Sorry. Okay. What are the parts of that particular audit? How they are conducted? We know our normal audit is conducted based on the standards on auditing. Okay. Normal audit is conducted on the based on standards on auditing. But how C&AG conducts audit? That is very important to understand. So for that particular purpose, C&AG from time to time, they have their internal guidelines also, which they use for the purpose of audit. Okay. And they adopted some of the auditing standards issued by ICAI, plus they have their own statement, C&AG's auditing standard 2017 statement. Okay. So they have laid down certain principles and policies in that particular statement. I'll discuss on that also. So C&AG's auditing standard statement is there. Okay, which provides some of the guidance to the C&AG with respect to the auditing of you can say of a particular PSU. Now I'll discuss some more on this, that what these standard contains and what are the type of audit that are enumerated in these particular standards. Okay. Now this particular audit mandate is based on the provisions related to 13, 21, 24 or the DPC Act. Okay. So DPT Act gives the guidelines or powers to the C&AG to form these standards, and they have formed the standard. This is particularly applicable to the C&AG only. Okay. Now they have various requirements for, under this standard. So these standards are basically guidelines. They are divided into 3 chapters: introduction, general standards, and the third one is the specific standards. Your chapter 1 talks about introduction. Chapter 2 talks about general standards. And chapter 3 talks about specific standards. Okay. Our main focus will be the chapter 3, specific standards. Now, when I talk about specific standards, they have specified specific standards for 3 types of audits. One is a financial audit. Second is a performance audit. And third is your compliance audit. Okay. So they have provided the guidance on these three type of audit. Financial audit, we know what is a financial audit. Okay. So here the objective of a financial audit in the public sector are expressing opinion on the financial statement, basically. That is a financial audit. Okay. They have all the auditors, all the guidance, notes and everything available in that particular guidelines, which is similar on to the our uh, standards on auditing, and they are somewhat has been taken from that only. Then the performance audit. Okay. Now performance audit is something very important. A performance audit is an audit with an objective to examine the the, like, you can say, performance of a government organization with an independent assessment. Now today, let's say for example a particular entity is working, whether that is working efficiently, whether that is working correctly or not, that is something the performance audit is. I can show you one of the report of the performance audit. Let me show you. Now performance audit can be of any department, any particular policy, any particular act. It's not necessary that the performance audit can be of PSU. I'll show you one of the area. Again, this is a performance audit. Okay. Now this performance audit, basically it's not of a particular department but a particular policy or functioning of a department, you can say. Let me show you that particular audit. See, so the performance audit talks about, okay, you can say the detail and of a performance of a particular function of a department, function of, you can say, of a policy, of a PSU. It's basically the function performance that has been looked into of a particular subject matter, and they perform the independent assessment. Now the report I'm taking and discussing over here is the performance audit on the exemption to charitable trust that is provided, okay, by the department. Okay, see, this is a performance audit, basically. Report on the report of the C&AG, performance audit on the exemption to the charitable trust and institutions. This is 2022's report. I think somewhere in the month of August it was published. Okay. Generally, see, what are the contents of this particular audit? So introduction, they have audit approach, how they the perform audit. Okay, they have status of action taken, okay, on the ministry on the earlier reports, statistical analysis of the population, then systematic deficiencies, compliance with the existing provisions, internal audit monitoring and review of trust institutions. Okay, and there's some abbreviation. Now see here, what is this particular audit about? So income tax department provides the exemption to the various entities, including government funded entities with respect to the charitable trust. So exemptions are provided under section 10, 23, 11, okay, 12, 13, 85, 80G of the Income Tax Act. Now, they here in this particular audit, okay, they check whether CBDT ensures in an effective manner that the charitable trust and institutions which are availing benefit complied with the prescribed procedures, whether the income tax department is efficient in granting the exemptions, okay, and exemptions are given to eligible entities accurately in a timely manner, whether the existing provisions in the acts and rules or CBDC instructions relating to the assessment of the charitable trust are sufficient there, or there is any inconsistency, okay. So this is the particular audit they are going to carry on, okay. They provide that in respect of assessee whose assessment of particular year selected for the audit and everything, okay, okay, so they provide some of the background that how they selected the particular entity, what is they have checked. So during this performance audit they have checked these many assessment records, okay. So a number of findings have been reported and laid in this performance audit. What are the findings? Let's say for example, due to wrong input of data required for the selection criteria in CASS, several cases were incorrectly selected for the scrutiny by the ITD system. So there is a performance issue, okay. Some of the cases with respect to ITR form 7. So if you go through this particular paragraph, you'll come to know that, okay, these can be the issues or these are the performance issues. Now, in case of performance audit, what is, as I told you, what is the primary function basically of performance audit? To check and evaluate the performance of a particular department, function of a department, okay. So this particular audit is performed to improve the public accountability, okay, of the function or a department, so that whether if any improvement is required, they highlight it. So in other words, performance audit is more on to providing independent assessment of the performance of government organization or program, activity, or function. Now this was one of the function, okay. This particular report was on the function. If you see, that is the function, that function to grant the exemption. The performance audit was of that particular function. Now there are other reports also, okay. There are other performance reports also. They are onto either government organization, okay, or they are either onto a particular activity. So let me show you one of the particular report. So this particular report, which was issued, okay. So this particular report, if you see the report of C&AG, performance of Kerala State Electricity Board Limited during pre and post Ujjwala Discom Assurance Yojana. So this is for a particular scheme or a program to evaluate the performance under a program, okay. So one of the report that has been issued. Then there are state-wise performance audit report. I'll show you. So one of the report You can find these, there are many reports that the C&AG issued based on the selected subjects. So I'm showing you some of them. See this one, report of C&AG on performance audit of air pollution control by government of Gujarat. So this again function, we are talking about a function of controlling air pollution. So this is one of the report that was issued in 2022. Okay. Again, in this way, there are multiple reports, not only financial related, but there are other reports also which are program related. If I show you one more report with respect to the program related, see this one, report of C&AG or performance audit of implementation of Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana or Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana. So these are certain, programs which are issued, formed by the central government, state government. Their implementation is checked. Implementation of program. Okay, so these are certain examples of, you can say, performance audit that has been carried out by the C&AG. Any doubts? Any doubts? So there is one question: what is the difference in Public Account Committee and Committee of Public Undertakings? See, Public Accounts Committee is more, if I talk about Public Account Committee, they are more on to, examination of appropriation of accounts, detailed examination of the reports of C&AG. They are not only restricted to the public sector undertakings, but they have a wider scope. Public Account Committee. Okay. They do not go on to the policy, but they go on to more on the expenditure side. Estimates committee, basically they are more onto the estimate that the government makes or forms. When I talk about public undertaking committee, okay, so they are specifically to the PSUs, public sector undertakings. Okay. They not only report, looks into the expenditure, they not only looks into the estimate, but they check for the autonomy efficiency, whether the sound business principles have been applied or not. They check with the functions which are vested with them. They check the policy, which is not checked by the Public Accounts Committee. So when you talk about PSU, public's undertaking has a wider scope. When you talks about the account and expenditure, Public's Account Committee has a wider scope, and Estimate Committee only takes care of the estimate. I hope I am clear. No, in all three, you can find the current members: PSE, Estimate, and Public Undertakings. Current members. There is no past member. So performance audit is not only for non-profit making organizations. No, it's not like that. Performance audit can be for any function, as I told you, any function, government organization, program, activity of the government. Yes, C&AG measures the performance of the program based on the, some predefined parameters. So whenever a policy or a, some, like in this case, this yojana was brought into, some of the, parameters were set. Okay, this is their target, they will perform this particular thing, or that much should be the expenditure, that should be the, some policy is there. Okay, now against that policy, the performance is measured. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? See, there is a difference between current member and current minister. I'm talking about member of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in the committee, not the minister. So there is difference between both. Any further doubts? Okay. Now, when I talk about performance audit, okay. So, performance audit basically, as I told you, they are more onto like the decision making, whether the performance has been appropriate or not. So they assess the performance, okay, whether the objective of that particular policy, function, department, organization has been achieved or not. So it's an achievement of the objective basically. Second, to improve the public accountability. Like today, whatever function is there, yojana, scheme, policy, government organization, department, authority, they use public money for their operations, for their particular that objective. Now, to check whether the money has been appropriately used, whether it is used with respect to the objective, that improves the public accountability, and to oversee the corrective actions that are required to be taken for that particular function, activity, or subject matter. That is something the performance audit. Now, I told you, like one of the example, let's say for example, food subsidy scheme. Now there was a scheme to provide the food at the subsidized rates. Now when I talk about the performance audit will measure whether this scheme has been carried out in appropriate way, whether the objectives of the scheme have been achieved or not. Okay, whether the scheme as it was required to be carried out has been carried out or not. Let's say for example, the scheme was to have a coverage of 10% in a particular region, whether that 10% has been achieved or not. That's a particular performance audit. Okay. Now, again, with respect to the performance audit, so here the taxpayers or citizens have received their value for the money that they have given to the government is into the question. Now, again, elements of performance audit can be part of more extensive audit that covers compliance and financial audits. It's not that performance audits part are only in performance audit. They cannot be covered into the compliance and the financial audit. There can be covered, but there can be overlap also. Okay. Now, the prime function of the performance audit, basically, if I talk about the prime function of the performance audit, okay, is based on to measure the performance or get an overall view. To get an overall view, okay, of aspects of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So these are the three parameters: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. That that is the main overall aspect of performance audit. That is the main thing that is seen in the performance audit. Now, when I talk about basically economy, it's with respect to the utilization of resources, you can say. When I talk about economy, it's more onto the utilization of resources. Then when I talk about what you can say, efficiency, okay, it's more onto the efficiency, as you know, that efficiency of that particular program or particular the activity, and effectiveness, how effective it was with respect to the guidelines that were there in the program. Okay, that is where the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness is measured. Now, when the performance audit measures these things, okay, when I talk about economy is just my minimizing the cost. Cost of resources used for a particular activity. When I talk about efficiency is input output ratio, you can say less wastage. Okay, and effectiveness, when I talk about effectiveness, effectiveness is achievement of objectives. Okay, achievement of objectives. Now when I talk about these three parameters, these are the main principles or pillars of an performance audit. First, I see whether the cost has been economicized, means the cost should be kept minimum, optimum utilization of resources should be there. They are interconnected, economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So if you have economy, okay, you can have the efficiency. Means if you have the good management of the resources, or if you bring down the cost to the minimum, on the same side it will be less wastage, or you have a good input output ratio, you have a good output achieved of the efficiency. Okay, then effectiveness. Now a particular program has an objective, how much effective it is there. It should not be on the that okay, you are bringing the economy, you are bringing the efficiency, but you are impacting the effectiveness. Okay, I'm not incurring the cost, I'm not incurring any wastage, but also I'm not delivering the objective. So these three should be aligned for a particular performance audit. These three should be achieved at the same time. That is the role of a performance audit. They evaluate this particular thing. When I talk about efficiency, to less wastages. So sound procurement practices, resources are properly protected and used, financial resources, optimum utilization of staff, equipment, facilities, public sector programs, they have involvement of other public sector resources. Okay, again, good operating procedures should be there, good objectives should be there, so that appropriate efficiency can be achieved. So these are certain areas where audit of efficiency is done. When I talk about effectiveness, it's whether the objectives of the program has been achieved, and that should be achieved consistently, suitably, okay, and with respect to a particular target period. If, let's say, for example, of a particular program like providing food at a subsidized rate, now if that particular program was to to provide the food at a subsidized rate within a particular period, and if I provide after 5 years where I was supposed to provide within 2 months, that there is no achievement of the objectives. So I need to understand the consistency of the achievement of objective, the suitable, and the time period. Okay, second, to which extent the program achieves the desired level of the result, that's the achievement. Third, establishing whether the the proper evidence is there for the achievement or whether the observed direct or indirect, impacts of a particular policy are evident. Sometimes, in these public programs, what happens is the result, actually the output, the achievement of the objective is not clear. In certain cases, it becomes very difficult for the measure the achievement of objective. So it's in some cases it's subjective also. Let's say, for example, we go to our previous example, implementation of this particular Har Ghar Bijli Yojana. Now this is, if I go to the objectives, okay, that each house should get electricity. Now there can be a lot of things when I talk about implementation of this. And when I say a lot of things, like, for example, it can be, how many houses were supposed to be covered, how many are covered in a particular region, what was the thing, what was impacting, a lot of things are there. So it is very, very crucial that, okay, the evidence should be available, it should be visible, or it should be calculated. It can be calculated that, okay, there is a direct or indirect economic impact of the policy due to implementation. At times you won't see a direct implementation, you won't see a direct impact, but there should be a direct or indirect visibility of something. Okay, there has been something on the ground, there is something, like, for example, cleanliness. So Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Now if I talk about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, how do you measure the performance of that particular plan? Okay, so the impact should be visible, then only you can measure the performance, and it was visible. So I'm not going on to the plans and not talking about any particular plans or what you can say the performance, but I'm just talking about how do you measure the performance. Okay, so there are certain factors which inhibits, okay, that is the satisfactory thing or satisfactory performance of a particular plan. Then again, second, when I talk about the achievement of the objectives, okay, I need to assess whether the the effectiveness of the program with respect to the individual components. I cannot just measure a program on an overall basis. I need to measure a program on an individual basis. For example, let's say there are 3 components of a particular program. Let's say this one, Gram Jyoti Yojana. Okay. Now in this Gram Jyoti Yojana, there were 3 components. One, to provide electricity till the village. Then second, hypothetical example, I don't know the facts, but just an hypothetical example. Second, let's say to provide the electricity to each house. Third, to provide electricity for 24 hours a day. Okay. Now I need to measure the performance at all the 3 component levels so that I can assess the performance at the overall plan level. For example, whether the electricity was reached to each and every village. Yes. Whether the electricity was reached to each and every house. Yes, no, both. Whether the electricity was provided for 24 hours in a day. Yes, no, both. So accordingly, I need to see the overall measurement of the whole Yojana based on the individual components. Okay, so the effectiveness is at the individual components, then it is brought to at the whole program level. Then I need to assess in a performance audit the adequacy of the management control, measuring, monitoring, and reporting of program effectiveness. It's not only I measure, but government or the authority is also required to measure the program. Okay, and how they are measuring, it's very important, because at the end they should be appropriately aware that, okay, the program is working correct and they need to take the corrective actions. So for them, it's their measurement that's very important. Okay, and identify the ways of making the program work more effectively. So how you can make a program more work effectively, that is something in a performance audit can be done. If I just show you one example with respect to that, this was one of the area, trust performance audit of a function of granting exemption to trust. Now if I talk about the last point, that making program work more effectively, identifying the ways, that is somewhere enumerated in the recommendations. Department provides, C&AG provides recommendations Okay, how you can work this more effectively, how you can create this particular function more effective and more achieve the objective. The objective of this function was to grant exemptions to the trust, charitable trust, or to the trust which comply with the requirements and which are appropriate. Okay, so they provide what can be done, what should not be done, and the recommendations on them. That's the identifying ways of making programs work more effectively. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt till now? Okay, so no committee works under any committee. They are independent. Three of them are independent committees. So they do not work one another like that way. They are independent, par at the level. Any doubt? So C&AG, see, when I talk about C&AG, C&AG of India, basically, okay, is a particular person. So current C&AG is Shri Girish Chandra Murmu. Okay, he was appointed on 8th August 2022. Now, when I talk about C&AG, he's in Controller and Audit General of India, Girish Chandra Murmu. But is he working alone? Answer is no. There are offices, state level offices, central level offices, department level offices. Just to give an example, there's a different defense audit offices, railway audit offices, other ministry audit offices, overseas audit offices. Then you have a states account and entitlement auditors offices. Then you have a state audit offices. Okay. Then you have a different department under C&AG. They are training institute like International Center for Environmental Audit and Sustainable Development, International Center for Information System and Audit, National Academy of Audits and Accounts. Okay, so there are various different departments, offices, and you can say authorities under C&AG, which looks after the function of C&AG. So he is the head of the department, Supreme Audit Institution of India. And again, the different departments or different as I offices, as I told you, they work as per their delegation of authority. So this is the report of Comptroller and Audit General of India, performance audit performed by C&AG. Any further doubts? Okay, if no further doubts, what I suggest is let's take a quick 10-minute break, and after break we'll gather back and discuss more on the performance audit. Okay, let's take a quick 10-minute break. Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's continue with the topic of performance audit. Okay. Now, when I talk about a performance audit, as I told you, these are the areas that I cover in a particular performance audit. Now, there are certain areas that I need to plan for while doing the performance audit. Okay. So I will cover one by one each. First, understanding the entity and the program. So when I talk about understanding the entity or the program, reason because let's say, for example, your performance audit is with respect to this particular yojana. Now, first of all, you need to understand what is this yojana. What were the objectives of this yojana when it was implemented, whether this is recently implemented 5 years ago. Okay. Who is the, the relevant authority, department, ministry managing this yojana, whether only center is involved or center plus state or only state. So you need to understand the underlying yojana, function, authority, entity, or the subject matter which is there. Then you need to understand the objective of the project or objective of the function, basically. Okay. Now, let's say in case of, trust one, the objective was to grant the exemption to the entities or charitable trust who comply with the requirements, who comply with the provisions laid down in a particular section, and who are eligible. Okay. So we need to define the objectives and the scope and objective of the audit. When I talk about scope and objective of the audit is, my scope will be that particular function, two functions together, three functions together, whole, ITD department. What is my scope? Once I decide, okay, this is my scope, that is a function of an income tax department. The function is to grant the exemptions to the charitable trust. Now, what is my objective? I decide this is my scope. Now, what is my objective? The objective is to evaluate whether the license are granted appropriately, whether the exemptions are granted appropriately, whether while granting the exemptions or while performing the review by the department, everything is appropriate as per the policy and everything. So that is the objective of my audit over here. Okay. The third is determining the audit criteria. Now, audit criteria are kind of standards that used to determine whether a program meets expectation or exceed expectation. Okay. Let's say, for example, this particular yojana, there will be some audit criteria. There may be some some standards in this particular yojana which provides the criteria that okay, whether this program is meeting its objective or not. Let's say, for example, the objective of the program was to achieve 50% ratio of electricity. Hypothetical example. Okay. Now here, this 50% is an audit criteria for us, whether 50% has been met or not. And to identify the audit criteria, what we need to do is we need to check the procedure manuals of the entity, the policies, standards, or directive guidance, the criteria used by the same entity or similar program in past. Some of the programs are like, they are the continuation or they have been upgraded or they have been renewed. Okay, so in that case, you need to see the criteria which was there for the earlier program. Independent expert opinion, let's say expert opinion from the committees or from, sometimes before implementing a program, there is a memorandum behind it. There's a discussion behind it, the discussions. Okay, some scientific information if it is there, or general literature available for that. So that is something can help us to determine the audit criteria. So audit criteria helps us to measure the performance of that particular program. Determine the audit approach. Now we need to determine the audit approach. How we need to determine the audit approach? We need to determine the audit approach based on the the objective, the scope, and the criteria. So scope, objective, and criteria, I call it SOC, helps us to determine the my audit approach. So SOC, that is scope, objective, and criteria, will help you to determine approach. Now, how scope, objective, and criteria? Reason because your scope, your objective, and criteria will help you to understand how you need to check the criteria with respect to the within the scope. Okay, and your objective is that to measure the criteria with actual performance. Now, it may require analysis of procedures, case studies, using of existing data, surveys, quantitative analysis, a lot of things. But if you ask me, is there any standard approach, uniform approach? Answer is no. That again depends upon case to case basis. So for example, this is the audit, performance audit of the department's charitable function. Okay. So let's say this is the income tax department. See, let's understand what was the function of department and how they are measured with respect to the scope. See, the income tax department has a responsibility of ensuring that the income of genuine and eligible trust and institution only are exempted from levy of income tax and that pay correct amount of tax. Now, these were the objectives. Basically, these are the objectives. So they have defined the objectives here. This is my scope. Okay, income tax department, charitable function. Now my audit criteria. Again, audit criteria is something appropriate. In this case, audit criteria is with respect to the scope, that whether appropriate exemptions has been granted or not. So what is the procedure or approach they have followed? See this approach. A sample of 6390 cases were drawn in an audit universe for the scrutiny by different field officers under the our audit jurisdiction. However, due to prevailing situation arising out of the COVID pandemic, the audit sample was reduced to dismiss cases. Further, in respect of any assessee whose assessment for a particular assessment year was selected in audit sample and where audit found a deficiency or non-compliance, audit selected all remaining assessments also between AY 2014-15 to 17-18 for the performance audit. And accordingly, 1028 additional assessment cases were selected for the audit. Means for a particular assessee, if there is a deficiency in one of the year, then they will select all the years of that particular audit. And additionally, they selected these many samples. Apart from the above audit sample, in order to examine summary cases, 200 high value summary cases in respect of PAN which were not part of the original sample, including additional cases, were also selected for audit. Thus, the total audit sample for the PA was 702 cases, out of which department produced records of 6260 cases and 766 cases were not produced to the audit. Then they will provide you that, okay, during the performance audit, what happened and everything. But this is an approach. They have taken this approach of selecting samples. Now, that is the approach that is, unique based on each category of audit, each category of, performance audit. Then comes the next area, that is the audit questions. Now, these are the audit questions which are asked during the particular audit. Let's say, for example, in this case, okay, in the case of, this charitable audit, see, entry conference was held at ID CBDT on 20th December 19. Field audit conducted during January-March 2020, September to October 2020. Supplementary field including audit of 200 top assessees or 200 top summary cases and follow-up or field audit verification continued till 2022. An exit conference was performed on 4th March 2022. Okay. Now, if you see the questions, now here it is not there, but if you see the detailed report, in detailed report, they also provide the what questions were asked. Okay. What were the main areas on which the questions were asked? Let me show you one specific such. Okay, I'll show you some of the details with respect to this audit only, this trust audit. So you'll understand basically the background about this particular audit and performance audit also. See this particular thing, audit approach. Okay, first they provide why this audit was selected. What was the behind selecting this audit? So see, the Public Accounts Committee on its 104 report on action taken by the government on observation, this is expressed its concern over the serious nature of the violations and failures of the IDT to monitor whether the trust were fulfilling the objectives. Okay. They also conducted text checks in 2019. And based on that, that was selected. This particular audit was selected. If I talk, we saw the audit, particular, what you say, this objectives. I'll not repeat the objectives here, but I'll show the scope. Scope is these many cases provided by the cases provided by the DGIT systems. Okay, of this many lakhs crores. So top 100 assessee of this many lakhs crores were selected. So all those things that we saw earlier was audit scope. A detailed scope was given, is always given in the audit report of C&AG or for the performance audit, like from which state, how many cases were selected, revised, additional, 200 total, what is the case that they are selected. Now comes the audit methodology, very important. We saw that the particular samples were selected. Now, what is required to be done with respect to the samples is very important to understand. That is the audit methodology. Okay, so I'll show you the methodology that they have adopted. See over here, entry conference, we discussed that in the course of performance audit, data regarding registration, approval, withdrawal of registration was collected for scrutiny. So they have collected the data. Data was captured in audit checklist, generic and specific, from the assessment and other records pertaining to approved sample to examine the nature and extent of compliance with the General Act. So they have used checklist. Then key documents were collected. Okay, key documents were collected from the records plus ATC screenshots. Other detailed documents were also selected. Replies wherever received have been suitably incorporated in the report. Okay. Recommendations made by PAC. So the recommendations will become part of your criteria against what you are required to measure the performance. So that is something about the particular audit methodology. Then there are additional things given in this particular report. So report runs to the usually 250 or 270 100 270 pages. But if you see some of the sections of the particular report, it talks about the detailed activity that they have performed. Like, I'll take you to the index. See over here. If you see chapter 4, it's the statistical analysis of the population and audit sampling. Okay, so they have performed the statistical analysis for this particular audit. They performed the data analytics and then they selected a sample. So that is something, again, part of your audit approach, that what you need to perform. Okay. You conduct then surveys in your audit questions. You perform, analysis of result, quantitative analysis and everything. Then the next area is assessing the audit team skill and whether outside expertise is required. If there is a critical area, okay, you need to assess your team skill, whether any other skill is required or whether you need an outside expert for your particular audit. Then you need to assess over here. You need to prepare an audit design matrix. Now, what is audit design matrix or ADM? It's something, like this is the audit design matrix I have given over here. So this is audit objective to provide power at a cheaper rate. Okay. Audit question. These will be the question that we will be asking. Now there is a criteria, rules and guidance against to measure that particular objective. There is a criteria to measure the objective. Now, once you will ask these questions, you will get the evidence. Okay, information you will obtain. You will perform analysis, data analytics and method collected, data collection and analysis method that you have performed on this. And this is the audit design matrix, which gives you from audit objective to the evidence collected, all the details in one single table. Then you need to intimate the audit entity about the program. Okay, audit program and progress. And then you need to consider, like when I talk about intimating, it's a meeting. So remember I showed you just now, they were talking about meetings, entry conference, then the exit conference, draft report. So these are, intimation to the particular department with respect to their audits. So this is how whole performance audit is performed. Any doubt with respect to the performance audit? Any doubt with respect to the performance audit? So performance audit, economy, efficiency, effectiveness, planning of the performance audit and how it is done with a live example. Yes, audit methodology comes under audit approach. Any doubt? Criteria is nothing but, measurement of the objective or objective of the project. What is the criteria for my audit? My criteria, see, if I just to show you this particular example, let's say this one here, let's say objective of this program can be to provide electricity in 80% of rural area for 24 hours a day. This can be an objective of this particular program. Hypothetical, I don't know what was the objective, I'm just hypothetical example. Okay. Now to measure this, now this objective 80% electricity for 24 hours a day basis. This is the audit criteria for me. I will measure here. Plus, if there is any recommendations by PAC committee, okay, recommendations of PAC, then those recommendations of PAC will also become my audit criteria. So audit criteria is required to be defined based on various things. It's not only the one thing, it's numerous things which comes into the play for the audit criteria. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys, with respect to the performance audit? No? Okay. Please explain establishing timetable and resource in audit planning. Okay. Okay. Resource planning. Okay. Now, see, in case of resource planning, so timetable and resource in audit planning, basically how it is done is it's totally depending upon the scope and the objective of your audit. Now, timetable, it's not something like that, it's a one-day audit. So for example, if I take this particular audit, this one, the performance audit of exemption to the charitable trust. Now, if I take this audit, when this was started, this particular audit started on 23rd February 2019 with an entry conference and closed on 4th March 2022. Although there was a COVID period in between, okay, usually audit don't last that longer. There was an exceptional case over here, but again, there is no timeline. That depends upon the type of audit, how extensive that is required to be performed, the scope and the objective of the audit. It's not a single one criteria that, okay, 6 months you need to close, done. It's not like that. Any other questions? Any doubts? Okay. If no doubts, then I'll move to the next type of audit. Compliance audit, basically. Okay. Now, what is compliance audit? Now, compliance audit can be, as a part of financial audit, can be performance audit, or can be a standalone audit. It's not necessary that the compliance audit is a standalone audit. Now, what is done in the compliance audit? I'll show you one of the compliance audit report. I think then it will be very easy for you guys to understand. Okay. So compliance audit basically, our audit which more focuses on, the compliance part. Let's say, for example, when I talk about a particular compliance audit, okay. So compliance audit talks into, the compliance with the particular policies, you can say, or particular that particular laws, regulations, or that's there. So it is compliance with the applicable criteria. How regularly the criteria is adhered to. Proprietary things like, whether the compliance with respect to the sound financial management. Okay. Then so compliance audit is not a it cannot be seen as a standalone basis. It's performed on sometimes standalone basis, but it is something, that, okay, whether it was subject matter was complied or not. So for example, in case of IT, the trust one, if I have to perform the compliance audit, I need to check whether the provisions of the sections were complied while providing the exemption. Okay, that is something to compliance audit. So I'll go and I'll check whether the provisions of the sections were complied or not. That can be one of the compliance audit. And I think I have one more compliance audit. Let me show you. So this is one of the compliance audit. Okay. I'll show you of one of the public sector undertaking. So this is compliance audit for the one of the public sector undertaking. See, report of C&AG. March 2020 report. Now, compliance audit of activities of selected central public sector and enterprises, union government, commercial. Selected enterprises. Okay. Which are the selected enterprises? Operational performance of Kanti Bijli Utpadan Nigam Limited, fuel management, Srinagar Tech, Srinagar Lay transmission systems. So these are the three which are covered. Okay. Now see over here, highlights of significant observation on the selected areas which are given in the report. Okay, these are the selection, some of the criterias. Okay. Then now they will talk about financial performance of the company. Okay, what was the financial performance? Then audit objective and scope. Audit was conducted to assess power was generated at the optimal cost to be too competitive in market. Again, compliance with policies, internal policies. Capital projects were executed efficiently. Again, you check with the compliance, okay, for the policy. Tariff petition was filed as per CREC regulation and revenue realization was made properly. Legal compliance. Okay. Then they check the operational performance. As I told you, compliance audit cannot be, usually is not on a standalone basis. Let's say, for example, I want to check the compliance with the policy. Now, policy has a parameter on operations or performance. If I want to check the compliance with the policy of the performance, it will become part of performance audit. So it's generally I'm checking a compliance with respect to one of the area. Now that area can be performance, that area can be financial, that area can be legal. That depends upon the type of that particular, what you can say is compliance that I'm checking here. I'll show you one more. Oversee, audit scope, objective and criteria. Audit examine the assessment, planning, procurement, transportation, storage, consumption of coal and oil during the period 1415 to 1920 in respect of 6 thermal power stations except Durgapura thermal power station, as of its 2 units were decommissioned in October 1985 and another in March 16. Okay. However, observation relating to earlier period were continued. Okay. Now, audit was carried out to assess the extent of the remedial measures taken by DVC to address deficiencies highlighted in the previous audit and also to assess whether FSA fuel supply agreement were executed with coal companies. Educate steps were taken for continuous supply of coal. Fuel supply management was effective. Monitoring mechanism for assessing the quality and continuity of coal was received effectively. Okay. And these are the audit criteria that they have derived. New coal distribution policy. So they need to check compliance with this policy. Central Electricity Authority norms and Central Electricity Regulatory Commission regulations. Project report of generating stations. Fuel supply agreements. Memorandum of understanding with coal companies. Guidelines policy issued by Ministry of Coal, Ministry of Power, Ministry of Railway, and Government of India. Agenda and meeting of minutes of Board of Directors and works and procurement manual, fuel management manual of the DVC. So these are certain criteria against which they will measure the compliance. So that is how the compliance audit is done. Any doubt with respect to the compliance audit? Any doubt? And these reports are available on the public domain. You can go to C&AG website, you can download it, you can read it. And I suggest to have a read once these reports also, because that will enhance your clarity about the audit of public sector undertakings. Yes. So the question is, is compliance audit part of performance audit? Answer is yes or no, both. Yes means when I check the compliance with respect to the policy regulations, that's the legal compliance. But when I check compliance with respect to the project reports, you can say then, like manuals, fuel management manual or something, internal, which talks about performance, it becomes performance audit. So that depends upon against which audit criteria you are measuring the compliance. I hope I'm clear. Any doubt? Any doubt, guys, till now? In any of the things? Okay. If no doubts, then let me take up one question. Very good question, and that will give us a good clarity about the topic also. Okay. So this is one of the question which was asked, in one of the papers. So this question again will, it's upon the audit by C&AG. Okay, let us see. Comptroller and Audit General appointed Sambhav and Associates as Chartered Accountant firm to conduct performance audit of AAPE Limited, a public sector undertaking of Government of India. The firm conducted the audit with a view to check all the expenses of the unit are in conformation with the public interest and public acceptable customs. The audit report submitted by the firm was rejected by C&AG. Give your opinion and action on the action of C&AG. Now you tell me, what is the issue over here? If they have conducted this particular audit, to ensure that, the expenses are in conformity with the public interest and public accepted customs, what should have they done differently? Where is a difference here, and what should they have done differently in this case? Why their audit was rejected? So they performed their audit with a view to check all the expenses of the unit are in conformity with the public interest and public accepted customs. Good, Kaushiki. But again, that is half of the answer. Correct. Good. We discussed so much of the performance audit now. I think, guys, it will be easy for you. I think this will be easy for you. We have covered so much on the performance audit. What is wrong over here? What they have done differently in this case? They should have done differently in this case. Correct, Ditaman? Absolutely correct, Shailendra. Correct, Kaushiki. Correct, Shailendra. See, absolutely correct, guys. The main purpose of the performance audit is to evaluate three criteria. Remember three things. I need to evaluate the economy. I need to see the efficiency. Okay. I need to see the economy, efficiency, and the third criteria that I need to see is my effectiveness. Okay, I need to see effectiveness. These are the three things I need to check. Plus, I need to check with respect to an audit criteria. So I should have a scope. I should have an objective of audit. Okay. Scope of audit, objective of audit will decide my audit criteria. Based on my audit criteria, I need to check economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. Now here, see, the firm conducted audit with a view to check all expenses, which is not a performance audit. Sorry, performance audit is an objective and systematic examination of evidence, providing an independent assessment of the performance of a government organization, program, activity, function. Okay, and facilitate decision making by parties with responsible to oversee and initiate corrective actions. Now, performance audit are evaluation of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness of the policy, program, organization, and management. It also promotes accountability by assisting those charged with governance and oversight responsibilities. So, if I go down, regulations on audit and accounts issued by C&AG laid down that the responsibility for the development of measurable objective of the performance indicators as also a system of measurement rests with the government departments or head of the entity. They are also required to define the intermediate and final output and outcomes in measurable and monitorable terms, standardize the unit cost of delivery and benchmark quality of outputs and outcomes. Means, in nutshell, they are required to define the criteria against which I will measure the performance. I need to have a criteria. And thus, rejection of an audit report submitted by the audit firm is in order as the audit with a view to check all the expenses of the unit are in conformation to the public interest and public accepted customs done by audit is not performance audit. And this public interest, public accepted customs cannot be your criteria. Trust me, cannot be your criteria. Criteria are specific, not open-ended. Clear? Okay, I'll have one more. Let's discuss one more question. Again, very good question. Okay, so the objectives of audit with a state electricity distribution company were to ascertain whether total cost of providing electricity is being recovered by timely submission to the State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Tariff orders, sales circular, sales instruction were issued timely. They were implemented in time. Meter billing connection was managed efficiently and effectively. Monitoring the internal controls was efficient. So you need to suggest which kind of audit referred in the above scenario. Also discuss the brief steps suggested to the auditor for planning such audit. So which type of audit it is? Which type of audit this is? Which type of audit this is? Okay, correct Sumit, correct Shahendra. Kaushiki Penditaman, no. I'll tell you the reason why for no for your answers. There's a specific reason why no. Which kind of audit this is? Correct. Correct, Shailendra. Now correct. So this is a performance audit. Now, why this is a performance audit? That's very important to understand. First of all, when I talk about, tariff orders, sales circular, sales instruction were timely issued. Metering, billing, collection was managed efficiently and effectively. See these two words, efficiently and effectively. Monitoring of internal controls were efficient. Okay, without any ambiguity. So this points out toward the performance audit criteria. this says that, okay, this is a performance audit criteria. Okay. Reason because I'm checking the effectiveness and the efficiency of the processes. These are the processes in an electricity company, and I'm talking about managing and monitoring them. Okay. Second, instructions were issued timely without any ambiguity and they were implicated. Again, process. And when I talk about a process with to measure their efficiency and effectiveness, it is performance audit. Again, monitoring of internal controls were efficient. It points out to the performance audit. So these all are part of the performance audit. And as I said, compliance audit can be part of performance. So total cost of providing electricity is being recovered by timely submission to the state. Now this, again, with respect to the cost, okay, timely submissions. It can be part of compliance. I need to check whether the policy has been complied or not. But again, it's a larger performance audit scope. Now, also briefly discuss the steps suggested to the auditors for planning such audit. What are these steps? Okay, tell me some few steps of the performance audit that we discussed now. Some few steps of performance audit. Come on, guys. Some steps pertaining to performance audit. Correct, Kaushiki. Correct, absolutely correct. So these are certain steps that we discussed. Remember, understand the entity program, objective of the project, scope and objective of the audit, audit criteria, audit approach, audit questions, team skill and outside expert need, audit design metrics, audit entity, intimate audit entity. Correct, Shailendra, correct, Dityaman. So these are certain steps that are required to be followed while performing the performance audit. Okay. Now let us see one more question. Now this was asked in exam. It was for 5 marks. The reports of the C&AG of India on the audit of PSU are presented to the Parliament and to the various state legislatures to facilitate a proper consideration. Enumerates the content of the audit report presented by C&AG. Okay. So I'll provide the details here. See, to facilitate a proper consideration, the reports of the C&AG on the audit of PSUs are presented to the Parliament in several parts consisting the following. Introduction, containing a general review of the working results of the government companies, result of comprehensive appraisals of the selected undertakings conducted by audit board, resume of the company's auditor, report submitted by them under the directions issued by C&AG, and that of comments on the accounts of the government companies, significant results of the audit of undertaking not taken up for the appraisal by the audit board. So these are the 4 areas which are there. And for certain specified state, the C&AG submits a separate audit report, commercial, to the legislature. Okay. While for the other states and union territories with legislature, there is a commercial chapter in the main audit report. The state audit report contains both results of audit, appraisal of performance of selected companies, corporation, as well as important individual instances of financial irregularities, wasteful expenditure, system deficiencies noted by statutory auditors, and a general review of the working of the result of government companies and corporation. So that is a generally, content of the C&AG audit report. Okay. Now, any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay. If no doubt, so the next area I want to cover is my comprehensive audit. Okay. What is comprehensive audit? Comprehensive audit means you can say it's an audit which covers a wider scope, basically. Okay, it covers a wider scope compared to my performance audit, which may include performance audit, compliance audit, or financial audits. Okay, so what happens in a comprehensive audit is efficiency cum performance audit is conducted, okay, other than the field which are already covered by internal audit. So the areas which are covered in the comprehensive audit are usually, dependent upon the what you can say, case to case basis. But if I give some example, let's say cost of capital, planned production and output have been achieved, planned rate of return, system projects, cost control measurements, purchasing policies. So comprehensive audits covers areas which are not covered by internal audit. Okay. It's a wider in scope. It covers different areas which were not there in the internal audit. It may cover compliance related and performance related or efficiency related areas. So if you can say it's a distinguishable audit than performance and compliance, answer is no, because performance audit and compliance audit can be part of comprehensive audit. But the overall approach of the comprehensive audit is to cover the areas which are not covered by the internal audit. To explain this particular scenario, let me take one example, and I'll say this is one of the question which was asked in previous exam. Okay, so let me cover this one. See, the Comptroller and Audit General of India has appointed a chartered accountant firm to conduct the comprehensive audit of Metro Company Limited, a listed government company which is handling the metro project of the metropolitan city for a period ending of 31/3/2020. The work to be conducted under Project A, handled by the Metro Company Limited, was laying down railway line of 124 kilometers. The chartered accountant firm reviewed the internal audit report and observed the shortcoming reported about the performance of Project A regarding the understatement of the current liabilities and capital work in progress by 84.68 crores. Explain some of the matters to be undertaken by the chartered accountant firm while conducting the comprehensive audit of Metro Limited. Okay. Now here we need to see which are the areas that can be covered under the comprehensive audit and how these particular, the information that is provided is relevant to us. Okay. So just let me. Now, matters to be undertaken by CA firm while conducting the comprehensive audit of Metro Limited is, as I told you, it can be overall cost of capital of the project compared with the approved plan, how the overall cost of project is going on. Okay. Is there any evidence of extravagance or unnecessary expenditure? Have the accepted production or operational output have been achieved? Okay. or underutilization of the installed capacity, planned rate of return has been achieved or not, system of project formulation or execution are sound or not. Okay, gestation period, effect of gestation period on and the capital cost control measures are adequate or not, are there any inefficiencies, wastage in raw material consumptions, purchase policies are adequate or not, enterprise have research and development program or not, enterprise has an adequate system of repair and maintenance, are procedure effective and economical. So these are certain areas which can be covered in a comprehensive audit. And this is one of the questions that has been asked in previous exam. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubts, I will discuss some of the areas with respect to the provisions of company set. Okay, with respect to the public sector undertaking audits. So if there is a question, is comprehensive audit similar to the cost audit? Can be, because see, comprehensive audit covers performance related, efficiency related, and compliance related. When I talk about efficiency, you go and check the cost related things in most of the areas. When I talk performance, you check the process related. And when I talk compliance, compliance can be with respect to anything. So can you say comprehensive audit is similar to cost? Yes. Can you say the comprehensive audit is similar to financial audit? Yes. But again, that depends upon the type of the audit, means not type, but the type of entity that is covered under the audit, the objective and the scope of the audit. Yes, the scope of comprehensive audit is much wider than other audit. However, it is meant to cover those areas which are not covered by internal audit. Remember, it is meant to cover those areas which is not being covered by the internal audit. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubts, then quickly I want to cover a few areas with respect to provisions of company set with respect to the audit of public sector undertakings. Now, if you talk about provisions of company set, we have already seen 135, 139, 143, 143.6, 143.7. Let me revisit again. Let me show you again quickly. Let's go to 139. Okay. Now 139 talks about appointment. Remember, we talked about government company, appointment to be done by C&AG within 180 days. So that is part, again, when I talk about a government company, it's a PSU. So it is required that, in case of a PSU, appointment is done by C&AG within 180 days from the end of the financial year. Okay. Then we talked about other provisions with respect to the appointment. With respect to the rotation was there, how rotation is applicable to all unlisted public companies, even including that company, government companies. We talked about casual vacancy, section 139.8, government company, C&AG is to appoint within 30 days. If casual vacancy is not filled within 30 days, then board of directors within next 30 days can appoint. Remember 139. Then we talked about 143. Okay, 143 we talked about with respect to the roles and responsibilities of the auditor, powers and duties in case of government company. So let me show you that one. Just a minute. Yeah, over here. 143.3 that C&AG will direct the auditor in the required manner the accounts are that are required to be audited. So 143.5 that C&AG will direct the auditor. 143.6 is power of C&AG to conduct supplementary audit. And 143.7 is power of C&AG to conduct test audit after the supplementary. Remember, we discussed something in our company's audit that these are the powers that of C&AG that on the basis of that government audit is done. We also discussed this chart that C&AG will appoint auditor. Audit report is shared with C&AG, normal audit report or supplementary audit report. Then within 60 days, C&AG can order supplementary audit or can comment upon such supplementary audit that will be circulated to members or person entitled to receive the copies of financial statement. Under 143.7, C&AG can ask an auditor to conduct a test audit. Remember something we discussed this in companies audit with respect to the provisions of audit of government companies. So that is, again, when I talk about government company, public sector undertakings, that will form part. Also, again, when I talk about audit of government company, okay, or public sector undertakings, first it's the the important point is understand what is the engagement that is there and who is asking us to conduct the particular audit. So that is also something we need to take care while deciding the overall scope of the audit. Plus there are certain areas in CARO 2020, okay, which are proprietary elements. Remember, we discussed in past lecture also CARO 2020 some areas which talks about the decision making, whether loan was given on to appropriate way, whether it's prejudicial to the interest of the company or not. So certain areas over there also they discuss about the which are proprietary in nature, and they discuss the performance or compliance with the policies, regulations. So some of the elements of CARO also helps us to report on this particular area. So that is with respect to the performance audit, compliance audit, and financial audit, which is done by the C&AG or can be done by any other auditor appointed by C&AG. Any doubt? Any doubt with respect to any of the area? So this was in previous lecture, audit of government companies. In companies audit, it was already discussed. You can refer that lecture, that is detailedly available over there also. Any doubt, guys? Okay, so there is a question with respect to C&AG. Okay, I'll just tell you. Can be, see, the question is, is C&AG needs to be a chartered accountant? Generally, C&AG, are appointed by the president, and they are part of the system. So let's say, for example, the current C&AG, okay, He was prior to this, he was a governor of Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. He has also served in various capacities of government India as a secretary of the Department Expenditure, special and additional secretary in the Department of Finance Service. Okay. He generally is an MBA and is an IAS. Okay. So again, that depends upon C&AG which is being appointed. It's not necessary that he needs to be a CA, but yeah, there are C&AGs who are chartered accountants and IAS who are appointed. So again, that depends upon the decision of the president. Any other doubt, guys? Okay. If no any other doubts, then I'll request, please, after this lecture, revise this topic in detail, see again the notes, okay, study material that will help and enhance your clarity. See, whatever we are discussing over it, I'm giving you a summary, I'm giving you, explaining you the concept. But if you go to the study material, it's in detail with examples, with more content. And that's why when you will read that, it will give you more clear understanding of the topic. And it's must, I'll tell you, it's must. Okay, so after this lecture, I'll suggest go and read. If you have any doubts, you can come back in next lecture and ask those questions. That is perfectly fine for me. In the next lecture, I will be covering special aspects of auditing in an automated environment. Okay, guys. And accordingly, I'll suggest please read that particular topic in detail and even previous topics. Okay, in detail, ask the questions that you have, in next lecture. That will be, I will be, very happy to take your questions. Okay. If no further doubts, then thank you for participating in today's lecture. I'll see you in the next lecture, guys. Thank you.